Welcome back to this week's episode of Dream Chat, a show where you get to find the match of your dreams. This week, we have a special episode because one of our participants is actually in AI. We're going to be conducting some sort of a Turing test. So, what's special about this week's episode is that our guest doesn't even know that she's going to be a part of a Turing test. Let's see how that unfolds.
Hello.
Today we have with us Marina, paired with 3 best matches on the planet. So, I think it's time for them to get acquainted. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and who are you looking for in today's show?
So I'm 20 years old and I love cognitive science. So my perfect boyfriend would be smart and studious, but at the same time fun and caring.
Well, you're in luck, because 2 of our participants actually share your interests. One of them is a developer, and the other a psychologist student. And the third one, a mystery. So, you know the rules. We set up a text messenger with your 3 matches, and I will leave you to it.
Okay, what do you think about the reliability of Turing test?
Finally asked something I know. I don't believe much in the Turing test. It's quite easy to fool and does not directly test whether the computer behaves intelligently, only whether the computer behaves like a human being.
Okay, he's not as rock-headed as I thought.
Totally worthless. If we let the Turing test decide the cognitive skills of AI, the aspiring industry will soon turn into a benchmark race. The Turing test must be replaced.
I think it's one of the most accurate tests ever invented.
What's up with him? The Turing test is useless. What if... This must be the stupidest thing that I've ever done, but what do you see in this picture?
Are you serious?
A very interesting experiment indeed. It's
Well, that's easy. It's a dog.
Okay, what's going on here?
Well, I'm amazed, lady. In just 5 questions, you were able to uncover the secret for our today's show. One of the participants is actually an AI. For an additional section this week, our lovely candidates have agreed to conduct an interview on AI and cognitivism. So without further ado, let's proceed to the first question. You were mentioning that the Turing test is weak and unreliable. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Okay, yeah. So first we must say that there are no particular definitions of intelligence and thinking that are sufficiently precise and general enough to be applied to machines, which leads to the point that I mentioned earlier about the Turing test not measuring computer intelligence, only how human it is.
when speaking about cognitivism and the Turing test, we must bring to the table the words of the great Robert French. And in his article Subcognition and the Limits of the Turing Test, he stated that Turing test could only be passed by the things that have experienced the world as we have experienced it. So consequently, the test estimates the cultural-oriented intelligence, but not the overall intelligence.
And also in the same paper, he also adds that he feels that any attempt to fix the Turing test so that it could test for intelligence in general is doomed to failure because of the completely interwoven and interdependent nature of the human physical, subcognitive, and cognitive levels.
I also remember you mentioning the imitation game, and I just couldn't help but remember the American philosopher John Searle. Are you familiar with his work?
Definitely. He argued that external behavior cannot be used to determine if machine is thinking or merely simulating thinking. So, his Chinese room argument is intended to show that even if Turing test is a good measure for operational intelligence, it does not necessarily mean that a machine has a mind, intentionality, or consciousness. So, the question addressed was, does the machine literally understand Chinese, or it is merely simulating understanding?
That's a great question, but I'd like to get back to Lacan's argument about that the Turing test does not measure intelligence, but rather only the ability to copy humans. Could you expand on that a bit?
Currently, researchers are mostly concerned with AI aimed at modest and specific goals. To test the intelligence of such programs, it is enough to give the task directly. Notable computer scientists in the field of AI, Russell and Norvig, suggest an analogy with the history of flight. Planes are tested by how well they fly, not by comparing them to birds.
Additionally, one must mention that in practice, the test results can easily be dominated not by the computer's intelligence, but by the attitude, skill, or naivety of the interrogator.
Hey, enough bashing on the Turing test. Don't forget to mention its strengths as well.
You're right, Vlad. After all, a lot of research is based on the Turing test. So could you maybe tell us about the strengths of it?
According to what I found on the internet, it has two main strong points: simplicity or tractability and breadth of subject matter. It's simple and tractable since it provides something that can actually be measured. For example, was the interrogator misled or not? The test also allows the interrogator to give the machine a wide variety of intellectual tasks, hence the subject matter breadth.
That's definitely interesting, but I think that the disadvantages outweigh the advantages of the Turing test, in my opinion. Anyway, thank you all for coming, and good luck in your future endeavors.